Hi everybody, it's Sandy Karpen, designated broker, RE/MAX Fine Properties. Hey, just a couple of things I wanted to bring you up to speed on. As most of you probably know, is that 3 new addendums have become available to us in zip forms as of this week. And I just want to talk briefly about them, but one in particular. The first one, it's kind of a minor change, but please be aware of it. There is a new SPUDS, a new seller disclosure statement. They've added things about a solar system if it's leased. And they also added something there about if a house has been remediated, if it was a meth lab in the past. So it's pretty self-explanatory, but look on the new SPUDS. It's dated October 2017, so we should start using the new forms. The other one, which is a little bit more significant, it's called the Solar Lease Solar Loan Addendum, or Solar Loan Assumption Addendum. And what it is, there's 2 parts to this addendum. And you're only going to use this if you're selling a house with a solar system that's leased. If you're selling a house that's a solar system that's owned, it does not apply because the solar system is owned, it stays with the property. But if the solar system is leased, you must use this addendum. And like I said, there's 2 parts to this addendum. Part 1 talks about the buyer's due diligence to investigate the lease, investigate the solar system, investigate the terms of the lease, the equipment, all those kinds of things. And the second part is, if the buyer is going to assume the loan on that lease, he's got to be able to qualify for that assumption, and he's got to be able to qualify for his loan also. So you will use the form called the Solar Lease Solar Loan Assumption Addendum only if you're selling a house with a solar system that's leased. But the third one, which is a little bit more significant that I want to talk a little bit more about, is in the Additional Clause Addendum. So that's the form that we use sometimes if we have additional clauses that are pre-written for us by AAR. For example, if you have non-refundable money, or if you're going to waive an appraisal or take a backup contract, the language is already written for us. But this change is pretty significant. And the change has to do with cash transactions. So now, if you sell a house on a cash basis and you use the Additional Clause Addendum, I want to read this to you. It now says that the buyer's obligation to complete the sale is contingent upon an appraisal of the premises for at least that of the sales price. If the premises fail to appraise for the purchase price, the buyer has 5 days after notice of the appraised value, or 20 days after contract acceptance, whichever occurs first, to cancel this contract and receive a full refund of his earnest deposit. In all cases, this appraisal contingency shall expire 20 days after contract acceptance, regardless of whether an appraisal has been ordered or received. That's a lot going on in there. So think about this. Whether you're the buyer side or the seller side, if you do a cash transaction and do not use the Additional Clause Addendum, there is no appraisal required, or there is no appraisal contingency, because the regular purchase contract does not address the appraisal in the sense that it's waived because we don't use that loan section on a cash deal, right? However, if you do a cash transaction and you check off that you're using the Additional Clause Addendum and you're incorporating this into the contract, even though it's a cash deal, it's now contingent upon an appraisal. In the purchase contract, the appraisal has to be acceptable to the lender. In the Additional Clause Addendum, the appraisal has to be at least that of the sales price. So that's a big deal, because one of the beauties of cash transactions is usually we don't have an appraisal. So if you're going to use the Additional Clause Addendum, again, buyer side or seller side, be aware the appraisal contingency is in effect. The other thing that's significant is the buyer has either 5 days from the time he does the appraisal to cancel if it doesn't meet the sales price, or 20 days after contract acceptance. So think about this. If a buyer does not do an appraisal on a cash transaction, he's tying up that house for 20 days. So you got to be careful and let your seller know that the buyer could do an appraisal on day 15, which is after the inspection, and not agree, or the appraisal comes in less than the sales price, and now you've taken this house off the market for almost 20 days and the buyer is canceling. So you have some choices, again, if you're the buyer side or the seller side, because your strategy is going to change. If you do not use the additional clause addendum, the appraisal contingency is not in effect because it is not in the purchase contract. However, should you use the additional clause addendum and check off the section that talks about an appraisal cash deal, the appraisal contingency is in effect, and you really need to read it so you can explain to our buyers and sellers what the significance and what the difference is. All right? As always, if you have any questions, you're always welcome to call me. It'll be interesting to see how this plays out in the market. So, thanks, guys.